If life is anything, it is a battle to be joyful in the face of uncertainty. We find ourselves constantly threatened by things that feel like they're just around the corner, by uncertainty. And so we find ourselves asking, is there anything certain in life? And I think I'd say two things to that. I think the first thing that I'd say is yes, there are two things, at least two things certain in life. Uncertainty is one of those certainties. We think about the way life just feels random, like results are doled out as if there's no one behind any of this. We think about how we, maybe we work really hard for the promotion. We're hoping that we're the one who gets the raise. But instead of us getting the raise, it's the person that we know does not work as hard as us. It's the person that we know cuts corners, and nonetheless, they are the one who's given the promotion. Or we think about our health. We do everything right. We eat all the foods that we should. We avoid all the bad things that we should avoid, and yet we're the one who receives the diagnosis, while there's other people out there who seem to be flourishing with no regard for their health, and we wonder, why in the world is this happening? At any given point, we feel like there's something that's just around the corner that's out to get us. And so it results in this kind of constant state of just nervousness about what's coming down the pike, about what tomorrow holds for us. But the second thing that we know for certain is this, that there is a Father in heaven who knows us, cares for us, and loves us. In Psalm 46, one of my favorite psalms, and a psalm that I found to be especially meaningful during this time, in verses 2 and 3, the psalmist describes his experience of the world and really kind of his experience of uncertainty by taking these images of stability and certainty and speaking about them poetically, kind of portraying them as upside down. So he says that it feels like the earth is giving way, like the ground is caving beneath him. He says it's as if the mountain has been tossed into the sea, right? The mountain, which is a picture of stability in the Bible, has been thrown into the sea. And that the seas are like waters that are raging and foaming, waves going high and threatening any who would try to cross these waters. But the psalmist concludes that he is not going to have fear because he says, the Lord is my refuge and fortress. Refuge and fortress, both being images that evoke a sense of stability and care. We could say that uncertainty is a certainty. But what we also recognize is that God's fatherly care for us, God's stability, God's certainty is a certainty. In Matthew 6, Jesus looks out and says, does God not care for the lilies? Will he not care for you? Does God not feed the birds of the air? Does God not care for the sparrows who are sold for a penny? Does God not know the numbers of hairs that are on your head? The Lord will care for us. So what that means for us in our experience of life that feels so uncertain and uneven and even random is it means, one, that we're not subject to the whims of capricious gods who are moody and changing and ruled by passions and emotions just like us. But it also means that we're not subject to the ebb and flow of a natural world that has no regard for us, as if we're just peons bouncing off of other peons, just clumps of matter bouncing off of other clumps of matter, and things happen just because that's what they do. Things just happen. No, rather, we understand that everything that happens to us comes through God's fatherly hand. We are overseen and loved by a good Father who uses every aspect of our life for his purposes. And that's the thing that gives us certainty in the face of uncertainty. I'm going to read from the Heidelberg Catechism, questions 27 and 28. The Catechism is a series of question and answers that helps teach the person who's working through them proper biblical doctrine. Question 27 says, what do you understand by the providence of God? And this is the answer. The almighty, everywhere present power of God, whereby, as it were by his hand, he still upholds heaven and earth with all creatures, and so governs them that herbs and grass, rain and drought, fruitful and barren years, meat and drink, health and sickness, riches and poverty, indeed, all things come not by chance, but by his fatherly hand. Question 28. So what does it profit us to know that God created and by his providence upholds all things? That we may be patient in adversity, thankful in prosperity, and for what is future, have good confidence in our faithful God and Father, that no creature shall separate us from his love, since all creatures are so in his hand that without his will they cannot so much as move. So the two certainties of life is that uncertainty is always going to be there. And we can either let that drive us crazy, or we can let it drive us into the second certainty, that God our Father sees us, knows us, loves us, and cares for us, that he is above our circumstances, and that he has a grip on us that is more firm, more stable, and more permanent than the Rockies themselves. Appreciate you listening. Grace and peace to you. We'll talk to you next time.